What is up, guys? Rick is here, and it's Saturday, so it's time to go over some more amazing community-designed exotics for Destiny. Now, this is the only series that lets you submit your exotic weapon or armor idea and have a realistic concept art made for it. Now, that's because I've partnered with the artist Benjamin Radaman, who makes these amazingly realistic exotic concepts. His deviant art will be linked in the description down below. Now, all of the exotic concepts you're going to see in this video came from the comments section of last week's video. We're going to go over 5 featured exotics from last week's ideas. We're then going to talk about the proper way to submit your exotic weapon or armor idea and some tips for getting selected. And lastly, we're going to go over all of the different concept arts that were created from last week's ideas. So, without further ado, let's get started. And we're going to start off today with the Street Sweeper exotic shotgun concept by Paradox Gaming 545. Now, this exotic shotgun has 2 unique perks. The first is an exotic passive perk called Box Magazine. This weapon reloads using a single magazine, as you can see from the concept. I think the only other shotgun that reloads via a magazine in Destiny right now is the Lord of Wolves. And reloading with a magazine instead of one shell at a time, like almost all other shotguns, is insanely useful. It's really going to increase your damage output over time. The second exotic perk is Ballistic Accelerator. If all 8 rounds in a magazine hit, the next magazine has 4 rounds with full auto, increased stability, and highly increased rate of fire. So if you're able to bang out all 8 rounds of this shotgun on an enemy in PvE, this is going to be pretty easy to do against a boss, then you're going to reload, and then the first 4 rounds of that next magazine are going to shoot even faster, they're going to have better stability, and they're going to fire with full auto. Now, I think that perk is going to come up most often in PvE. In PvP, hitting all 8 rounds is going to be quite a challenge, and then the bonus it gives you isn't even that incredible. It's pretty good for PvP, getting to kill like the first 1 or 2 guys extremely fast, but other than that, I don't really see it being utilized that much. In PvE, however, just being able to go absolutely ham on a Minotaur, for example, and then reloading, getting even more of a bonus on the next Minotaur, like, it seems like quite an effective perk to have in PvE. Also, to balance out this gun's very good capacity, magazine reload, high rate of fire, it is going to be a 2-shot kill on PvP, which I really do like. Like, it shoots very fast, you can be able to bang off 2 shots pretty quickly, and that's going to keep it from being overpowered because the instant kill shotguns still have a slight advantage over it in certain scenarios. Now, this shotgun really reminds me of, I think there is enough design space to have an entirely new gun type of combat shotguns. Shotguns that reload via magazines, have bigger capacities, but don't do as much damage, can't kill in a single shot in PvP. You have stuff like AA-12s and Sega-12s in other games, and those kind of make their way somewhat into Destiny. Heck, that gun type could even mess around with how wide their hipfire reticle is on certain archetypes. So I love this idea, and it really reminds me of the combat shotguns idea I've had for a while. Moving on, we have the Negotiator exotic sniper rifle concept by Aaron MW. This weapon has armor-piercing rounds as an intrinsic perk, and its only exotic perk is Deadly Force. At low health, this weapon deals significant bonus damage. Very simple, only 1 exotic perk, but actually quite an interesting perk. Because let's kind of analyze what that would do. At low health, you do significant bonus damage. Right now I'm thinking of, let's talk about PvP in a bit, but in PvE, being able to get shot by a boss, you're at blinking low health, but then you can duck out of cover and get the rounds off pretty quickly and do massive damage. But in PvE, that's also quite insane. Getting low health, like getting in a firefight, almost being dead, and then suddenly your rounds are one-shot body shot kills, that is no joke. one-shot body shots with sniper rifles in PvP are quite the powerful thing. And so having that ability with this weapon just by getting hurt, that is potentially quite useful. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered because you actually have to get to low health. You basically have to get to the point where, you know, one shot from a scout rifle could kill you or whatever to get this bonus, but it is quite a useful bonus. It'd be pretty interesting to see how a gun like this would fit into Destiny. Moving on, we have something a little different today. The Phoenix Shell exotic ghost concept by IFA, either Funny Face or Semicolon 3, and this thing is pretty unique. Now, this is going to have a couple of passive perks, kind of just exotic and ghost-like perks. It's going to have the passive perk, the Life Exotic, letting you use this as an extra exotic, not taking up an exotic slot. It's going to have an increase to strength or intellect. It's going to have the solar armor and solar refund, so you're getting kills with solar abilities. It can generate glimmer, a bunch of very ghost-like abilities. But the exotic perk for this ghost is going to be Phoenix. Getting revived or respawning creates an explosion of fire around you. Additionally, people scoped in on your ghost will be blinded for 3 seconds. Now, let's talk about the second part first. Scoping in on your ghost, so if you look in at the guy's dead body, you're going to get blinded for 3 seconds. I'm not 100% sure on this ability. Maybe it would work. There's definitely nothing like it in the game right now. I don't think it would be tremendously overpowered or anything. It would just be like quite a unique ability. I think it would probably be very useful for if you died like in a corridor. People trying to not look at you but look past you may also get blinded by that, so we'll have to see how that would work. But the main thing is going to be getting revived and creating an explosion of fire. Forget about the second ability. The second ability I think may have to get removed eventually because it may be a little bit much, but the first ability I think is absolutely fantastic. I think it's both useful, like getting revived. We all have those scenarios in PvE where we're reviving our teammates and there's enemies attacking us. Like you just go in for the revive, you're like, I know there's an acolyte or something hitting me in the back, but I just want to get this revive in, and being able to revive that person and then they explode in fire and kill the guy that's attacking you, that's quite useful. But it is in no way overpowered. It is in no way overbearing, because if you're going to have an exotic ghost, it's going to have an ability that's kind of lessened, an ability that's not that extravagant, not that powerful, because you're basically getting an extra exotic thrown in on top. You want to make sure it's not overpowered compared to people who don't have this ghost. And that ability of reviving and getting explosion around you is useful and yet not powerful enough that it wouldn't warrant itself on an exotic ghost. So I think that's a perfectly designed ability for what an exotic ghost could offer. Next, we have the Wildcard exotic sidearm concept by Lord Easel. This weapon has 2 unique perks. The first is an exotic passive perk called a Trick Up My Sleeve. This weapon has increased stability, range, and rate of fire if your primary weapon has an entirely empty magazine. Moving on, the main exotic perk is Full House. Killing an enemy with this weapon will instantly reload your primary. Now this actually, I really like this idea because it really cements the idea of a sidearm as a backup to your primary. Like you're using your primary, you're focused on your primary, and you're only going to whip out your sidearm if, like this says, you have no ammo in your magazine. You have an empty magazine, you have to switch, so you switch to this weapon, get a kill, and then are even able to instantly reload your primary so you can go back to whatever you're using and just go back to doing what you were doing. Again, I love this idea because I feel like it's perfectly designed to fit a build where you're focusing on a primary weapon. If you're in PvP and you absolutely love your Hawksaw and you want something to complement that, this would be like the perfect complement to it. Even in PvE, if you're running Heroic Strikes and it's the Arc Burn plus Small Arms Wombo combo and you're using the Zalo Supercell, this would be, again, one of the perfect complements to it, where you can, if you run out of ammo, you start to reload, you can whip this out, kill the closest enemy to you, go back to your Zalo, killing everyone. So I love the design of this weapon. And the last exotic concept we're going over today is the Particle Accelerator exotic machine gun concept by Lord Easel. This icebreaker-inspired machine gun has two unique perks. The first is an exotic passive perk called Bullet Accelerators. Every third bullet fired will be accelerated, giving it extra impact, range, and it will over-penetrate its target. Moving on, the next exotic perk is Critical Mass. Enemies killed by an accelerated bullet explode, damaging all nearby enemies. Essentially Firefly if you kill them with that accelerated third bullet. Now, I like the idea of this massive exotic machine gun, kind of, you can hear it shooting da-da-boom, da-da-boom when you get those accelerated rounds going, and then if you get a kill with those accelerated rounds, you get Firefly. Like, that seems pretty damn good to me. Being able to get Firefly with a machine gun is potentially insane. You know, massacring thralls, massacring acolytes, and just having the power of a machine gun behind it. Obviously, this weapon, the main thing for me is if you're gonna have that third round do extra damage, it would just need to be balanced in a way that it isn't incredibly overpowered. Like, well, you do have like 3-shot kill machine guns anyways, so this actually maybe wouldn't be that ridiculous with the third shot killing would be that accelerated round. That's quite interesting, and I think that it would be, there's nothing really like it in the machine gun category, so I think it would be definitely a cool idea. It would also be kind of a challenge to use this weapon and try to time your shots properly to get that explosive damage bonus, like using it in PvE, for example, you know, trying to kill stuff, potentially even shooting off 1 or 2 bullets to get the next bullet to be an accelerated round, and then shooting a thrall to get the Firefly bonus. Like, that would be pretty interesting to utilize. Now that is it for the 5 featured exotics we're showing this week. If you want to submit your exotic idea, what you need to do is simply reply to the thread of the comment I'm going to leave in the comment section down below. So I'm going to leave a comment saying reply to this comment thread here with your exotic idea, and simply do that. That thread will be the only place we're looking for ideas. Now the first thread will fill up very quickly with the 500 reply limit, and then there will be a thread number 2. If you can't find thread number 2, simply hit me up on Twitter at RickHackus, and I'll be here to put thread number 2 in as quickly as possible. Don't worry if you're in thread number 2, Benjamin does look at both threads for his ideas. Now, as for some tips for getting selected, as always, my 2 tips are: firstly, try to make an idea that is realistic for Destiny. Turning yourself into a dragon when you get a kill is never gonna make it into Destiny. It's cool, but it's just not realistic. The second point is that you've gotta kind of self-balance yourself. Make sure that your idea isn't overpowered. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of submissions where getting a kill will give you an overshield or a damage boost, and it's just gonna be a little bit much for Destiny. Try to balance yourself. Now, lastly, before we end the video, let's go over all of the different exotic concepts that were created this week. Remember, if you want to support this series, please remember to rate and especially share these videos. It really helps myself and Benjamin out. Now, the first concept we have is the Vandal's Verdict, exotic auto rifle concept by Iron Maxi 001. We then have the Vex Catalyst, exotic sidearm concept by Cody Lynch. Moving on, we have the Data Searcher, exotic sniper rifle concept by Synthetic Simulations. Moving on, we have the Tavis's Resolve, exotic machine gun concept by Ravenous. Next, we have the King of Crows, exotic auto rifle concept by Dr. Manatee 64. And lastly, we have the Fading Flame, exotic hand cannon concept by Vayan Frey. And that is it for last week's concepts. So that is it for today's video. Remember, if you want to see more Destiny content and don't want to miss out on next week's episode of Fan-Made Exotics, remember to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day. Now, I got to play Titanfall 2 recently at EA Play. I was invited out to LA to attend a special Titanfall 2 event where myself and a few other YouTubers were able to play the game for a decent amount of time early. We were also given some exclusive Titanfall 2 multiplayer gameplay, which you can see playing in the background during this video. A lot of it was from the trailer, but there's actually quite a bit of it kind of extended beyond what was in the trailer, and actually featuring some new weapons that weren't seen in the official multiplayer trailer, so that's definitely pretty cool for Titanfall fans. Now let's get started by discussing what new features were added in the Titanfall 2 multiplayer.